Wednesday at this time, we always get the chance to talk to the great Mike Lupica of the New York Daily News, best-selling author. Read him at MLB.com, and he joins us every Wednesday at this time. Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Good afternoon, Mr. K. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I am one of these people. I don't get freaked out when the Knicks stub their toe. I don't know if you feel like this because I don't think that they're a finals team. I don't think they're at that point right now, so I don't get that upset. Do you look at it the same way?
Yeah, I've got a column in tomorrow's Daily News, Michael. I don't think they've posted it yet. And I just say that we're going to find out over the next month or so, and even maybe into the first round of the playoffs, if they are anything more than the second round Knicks. And I believe it's time for them to be more than the second round Knicks. And Michael, you always qualify this by saying they play hard, they're extremely entertaining, they're extremely likable, but they're not one of the best teams in the league, despite the fact that only OKC and the Celtics and the Cavs have a better record than they do. Right. I think that if you still include the Nuggets, which I do, okay, because I just can't discount them as long as they have Jokic, the six best teams to me, in no particular order, are OKC, Cleveland, Boston, L.A., the Warriors, and the Nuggets. Right now, this minute, okay? And the Knicks, their record, Michael, you only can play who you play. And they have beat up on the softer part of their schedule, and they have struggled against the harder part of their schedule. But the fact is, they're simply not in that class. And, Mike, if you can see them in the Eastern Conference Final off of just what we have seen so far, raise a hand, because I can't raise that hand.
I would agree with you, and the thing that makes me worried, Mike, is that the way it lays out, first of all, they might have a really tough first-round draw with the Pistons, who are the type of team that gives them problems. And then you run into the Celtics. I'm sorry, they're not better than the Celtics.
Mike, I hope that I think it's April 8th, they play them again at the Garden. I hope that they can give – and by the way, there is a crucible coming up right now for this team. And I don't know what the deal is with Karl-Anthony Towns. I hope he's fine. I hope he gets back on the court soon, all right? They got to play both L.A. teams back-to-back. Then they go to Sacramento, Portland, and then they come back and play, oh, wait for it, Steph, okay? So, and if they hadn't had a couple of gritty last-second wins on the road just now, they'd be looking at a real possible free fall at this moment in the season. But then again, Michael, after the road trip, they hit another part of the schedule that looks, relatively soft. Not as soft as soft ice cream, but soft, okay? And so I just think there's so many questions to be answered about this team. And again, I keep qualifying it. It's a very likable team. It's probably, in a lot of ways, a better team than last year simply because of the presence of Towns. But they just seem so, Michael, don't you get the idea that they're just sort of disconnected sometimes, even from their own talent? I really like OG. He scored 29 last night, and at times I felt like he gave up 129. Bridges has been wildly inconsistent and looking nothing like the star of the league that we thought we were getting. Brunson's always going to be great. Hart's going to be the glue guy, all that stuff. But I just somehow, the whole is not as great as the sum of its parts right now to me. And even with the record they have. Here's what I said in the column, Michael. You look at the record, and then you look at the product on the floor, and there's a disconnect there, too.
Yeah, because they beat up on everybody except for those three teams that you mentioned. They even beat up on the Nuggets, Mike, which tells you that, they've got something in them. But I think the breakdown where I think the front office thought they were going to take another step from last year is that Bridges has not been the player that they thought. They gave up 5 first-round draft picks, and he's a nice player, and I love the fact that he plays every single game and doesn't want to come out. But he has not been a difference maker at all.
No, and it shows. And when he does play a great two-way game, you say, wait, wow, where's that been all season? No, they're a mystery to me, despite the fact that they could end up winning, between 50 and 55 games. But I would like to see them show up against the Lakers. And I know that it sounds like they're not going to have Towns. I don't know if you know something today that I don't know, okay?
Nothing yet.
But the Lakers came into the Garden and beat the Knicks before they had Luka. When it was, when it was kind of a LeBron against the world. So we say this so often when they come up on a Celtics game or they come up on a Cleveland game and fall flat. Let's see them show up in L.A. They got 2 games in L.A. The Clippers are certainly beatable. And last night, you talk about injuries, the Lakers were down 2 starters. I know they're playing the Pelicans, but Zion had a huge night, and the Pelicans actually have been playing decently lately. And you saw in full the potential of LeBron and Luka. And I'm starting to believe that they can beat anybody.
If have you ever seen a fan base, Mike, in all the years we've covered sports, that took a kick in the cubes like the Mavericks fan base?
God.
They lose Luka. Davis plays 1 game. Now Irving's out for the remainder of the year. I mean, they went from a team that thought they could go to the finals again to they might not make the playoffs.
Mike, I was talking to Kyle Wagner, my sports editor, today. We got to start making a list of the worst trades of all time because this is a biblically bad trade. And I know why they leaked it. They certainly they did everything except hire skywriters to let everybody know why they did it as a way of defending what they did. But you're talking about a guy who had him in the finals. Oh wait, I'm sorry. About 20 minutes ago, is an international star of this sport. And now, Michael, you can see now that he's gotten with LeBron, it's like he's gotten religion. I don't. Now that Luka had a massive game last night, 15 assists in addition to the points and everything else, block shot that started a break. But when people have to pay attention to him, guess who's the happiest kid at camp? A 40-year-old guy named LeBron James, because they simply can't focus on him as much anymore.
You know what bothers me, and no one has given me a good excuse. I know what they've leaked about, that he's out of shape. Mike, I don't care if he looks like Butterbean. He's one of the top 3 players in all of the sport, and you just gave him away. Yeah,
and again, Michael, how did Nico and everybody and Jason, how did they think they made the finals? Did they just scalp a ticket to go to? No, he took them there. He took them there, making shots from everywhere except the locker room. And you watch him on the court, and they say, oh, he's not in shape, and da-da-da-da. I don't know. I see a fierceness on his face. That guy wants to compete. And now they've set the Lakers up, Michael, for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
They can when LeBron finally does step aside at the age of 62, Luka is still going to be there. It is. I asked a friend of mine the other day, well, wait, what if the Knicks had offered? What if they'd offered Karl Anthony Towns and some other, whatever? But apparently the Lakers were the only the date at the dance.
Amazing. Do you ever play the what if game when you see, Steph going 13-1 at the Garden, that if Don Nelson had not taken him? And I don't play it as much as I should because I always think the Knicks might have screwed it up because the Knicks were not great back then, and they might have gotten rid of him to clear cap space to go after, another aborted LeBron run. But boy, would he have been fun to see for 41 games a year as a Knick.
Michael, I have been writing about this since the night of that draft because in our family, we had been focused on Steph Curry when he was still at Davidson. I almost was commanded by my youngest son, Zach, the little point guard in the family. I had to get him a Steph Curry Davidson red jersey. Way back in the day, there was one game where he came into the Garden. I had to take the kids because they just had to see. You never know. And guess what, Michael? What you just said is true. You know who he could have turned out to be? Saquon.
Right.
He could have languished playing for those Knicks teams the way Saquon languished. I'm not comparing them, but languished playing for those the Giants teams.
Are you all in on St. John's with Pitino? And
yes.
It's amazing what Pitino's done.
Yes, Michael. I have known Rick for 40 years. I first met him when he was Hubie Brown's assistant with the Knicks back in the 80s. And you could see he was He was going places, and he was going places fast, and he had a vision of basketball, and somehow he was even able to kind of meld his vision of basketball with Hubie's. And I think I've told you this before. Bob Ryan, who to me is the greatest basketball writer of them all, when he saw him as a kid head coach at Boston University, referred to him as Mozart. That's how good he thought he was as a kid. I think just as a pure basketball, I'm not talking about anything that happened off the court. I'm not talking about the mistake he made going to the Celtics. None of that, okay? To me, he's one of the handful of greatest basketball coaches of all time. And this is his kind of team, Michael. He has proven before at Louisville that he can win with a team that doesn't make a lot of threes. And if you went up to Stores for the first UConn St. John's game, right? Michael, they get after it on defense.
Oh.
They get after it, Michael. They get after it on defense on every single possession. And they were they're 6th in the country now. I don't think Auburn will drop out of the top 6. But Michael, 6th in the country is 6th in the country as the tournament approaches. No, it's a great story. It's I wrote this about Rick a couple of weeks ago. And looking back over everything I've seen from him and everything I know about him, okay? When you look at this isn't just a great it's not just a great New York story because it's St. John's and because Rick, started out in New York City. But this is a New York basketball team, Michael. This is a team that people can instantly relate to. This is New York basketball they're playing, and it would just be a fantastic thing if Rick and these kids made a run.
Well, we'll see next week. Mike, thank you so much as always.
Michael, talk to you next Wednesday, pal.
All right, be well. That is Mike Lupica of the New York Daily News. So his Nick column is going to be posted soon, and you could read it in tomorrow's Daily News.